We were always going to get this crisis, and people have doubted even interest rates that are rising. Right? It's just inevitable when you get governments that are spending on their means continuously. In time, rates will start to rise, including inflation, and also we have default risk in the future. This is in the future, right? There is a pattern of history, and that pattern is unfolding as it has. We have a massive real estate bubble that's going to correct. That will cause a banking crisis. That will cause a fiscal crisis. That will cause a currency crisis. There's just a typical pattern. When you study history, you can build models, and now with AI, it's so easy for me just to throw in the data and just confirm, the timing. Now, I've always said 2024 is the target date, just the business cycle. And the reason 2024 is so important is that we have the end of the millennial boom, and we also have the demographic or workforce shift. That's important to economic growth and productivity, and we'll be forced as a country to dramatically shift to creating real wealth, or we're going to have the middle class destroyed. It's pretty simple. Okay, now today, this is relentless. The 5 year hit a new high. So what we're having is more and more people hitting a threshold and a higher level of interest rates, right? And I think policymakers are praying that rates will eventually slow, or fall, and rates aren't going to fall unless we have a hard landing, right? And a hard landing won't bail anybody out. I mean, you only have to look at Japan or the 1930s or even Canada. I've alluded to, I'd lived through that experience myself, and interest rates collapsed. They collapsed so much that a lot of capital left the banks because they were invested in GICs with high yields, and they went into the mutual fund area and investing. So, and real estate was a non-place for speculators. And that's what's coming. I think a lot of people don't understand is that once you get the trauma of a real estate collapse and it's predicated on credit, people aren't interested. They shift somewhere else. So there's always a bubble. Capital accumulates in that area, and then once it collapses, that's it, and it'll take a while, maybe a decade or two or three, who knows, with real estate. If we are in a secular rise in interest rates, we're not going to have a bubble in real estate again. That will be on the next down wave, and that might not be to mid-century. So we pretty much have seen all the bubbles. But look at this chart. For those who haven't seen this chart, it's very detailed, but the 5 year is where most of the Canadian mortgages are dependent on. I have the Kuznets real estate peak. This is actually when demand for real estate will peak. Pretty much, I don't count the immigrants for a lot of reasons, and that's another short video. This is when the demand will peak, and we'll see a really hard landing. And we can see the monetary downwave, those green lines from left to right, where interest rates were in a secular fall, and that's what kept the real estate prices levitated. And then we saw in late or early 2022, it broke that trend, and we're still heading higher and really at 4.75%. And anything above that, all the gains from real estate will be erased at 5 or even 6%. All the gains from 2000 will be erased because real incomes have not kept pace with inflation. Not nominal, right? Nominal is just what you actually see, the percentage increase in your wages. When you adjust it for inflation, which is a better way to measure that, it's a way of understanding, are you making gains? And Americans and Canadians haven't made any since the 1970s. So it looks like this will continue for 6 months. I think we're going to see strength, and then the weakness will start in the summer at the latest next year. It only compounds the problem. And anything they're trying to do with extended amortization, it's just more debt. More debt doesn't solve the debt problem, right? We need to restructure the debt. But if you structure the debt, you have to restructure the economy. This is the problem with central planning. They don't want creative destruction, right? And creative destruction is a better way of doing things, more efficient a way of doing things. And I've alluded to yesterday, the stem cell revolution will totally collapse the sick care system. The sick care system is unsustainable. The government doesn't have the revenues unless you tax everybody. And we have an aging society and a diabetes epidemic. But anyways, that's another story. This is the most important thing. Rates are still getting higher.